What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we have the final this week at Bungie before the launch of Season 18. And so in the update today, they speak about Season 18 mods, some of the mods that'll be featured on the artifact, including some brand new mods, and some ways that they're going to let us be a bit more creative with that. They also give some extra bits of information about Arc 3.0, and I'll cover the reveal for that in more depth in a moment. Plus they have some additional save the dates for various events throughout Season 18, including Trials, Grandmasters, Iron Banner, and even Festival of the Lust. And so we're going to jump in and break it all down inside of the video, guys. As always, I hope you enjoy this one, but without further delay, let's get into it. And on the subject of Arc 3.0, which we'll go into in more depth in a few moments, Bungie do say new ability buff is all about making you feel mighty. Movement speed, weapon readiness, it all matters, but we want players to feel powerful by showing off their skills, and that's where the amplified buff will come into play. So in Arc 3.0, to become amplified essentially means to be on a roll. For example, if you're the type of player that goes ham in game and eats foes for breakfast, you'll experience a satisfying increase in your personal performance based on rapid kills with arc damage. And they say Risk Runner and Acreus mains, now's your time to shine. But on the debuff side of things, of course, there is Blind, where PvE blinded opponents will be disoriented, leaving them vulnerable and incapacitated. But in PvP, opponents are affected by a complete screen whiteout effect and the temporary removal of the HUD. Then there is Jolt. Any opponent, PvP or PvE, that is jolted will disperse small bursts of lightning to nearby enemies, which helps do the dirty work for us. And so of course Arc 3.0 is going to be interesting. I didn't cover that reveal in depth yesterday, so I'll go through more of the specific class abilities in a moment. But to speak about mods, they say a new season means new mods, and we've heard the community loud and clear on the state of champion mods. In addition to the weapon tweaks mentioned in last week's TWAB, we've got a different menu up for grabs when it comes down to crafting the perfect build. And Andrew Veen from Bungie says we've got a lot of love for machine guns, and with the weapon meta featuring them heavily with the new season, we have several ways to share that love when crafting the perfect Arc build. With Arc 3.0 being all about that rapid fire mayhem, making mods like Holster, Scavenger, and Overload more obtainable and unlocked sooner seemed like a great fit. There's a trifecta of returning favourites from Season of the Chosen, including Scout and Sniper targeting, Anti-Barrier Sniper, and Sundering Glare. We're excited about these especially because players have been clamouring for their return, and this season's meta and encounter types made it the perfect time to add it in. One of the new mods we're featuring is Bad Amplitude. We created this particular mod to increase access to Jolt in Season 18, while also giving players a new answer to the age-old question, how can I make champions explode? And then they say Hype Train Conductor and Trace Evidence are also new to the artifact, although these two mods will make more sense when you've had some hands-on time with Arc 3.0. For mods that are entirely new, they point out that they will be bold in the following list. But we can see in the first row, we get access to Overload Bows, Unstoppable Pulse Rifles, Anti-Barrier Scout Rifle, Anti-Barrier Auto Rifle, and Unstoppable Shotgun. And after 2 perk choices, we'll get access to Scout Rifle Loader, Sword Ammo Scavengers, and Machine Gun Holster for legs, as well as Scout and Sniper targeting, and Bottomless Bounty 1, which improves 2 Origin perks. But after 4 perk choices, we're going to see Glaive Loader for arms, Focusing Strike, where causing damage with a melee ability grants class ability energy, as well as Combo Arc and Solar Resist, Machine Gun Ammo Scavenger, and Bottomless Bounty 2, which again improves 2 Origin perks. Then we can see after 8 perk choices, we'll get Overload LMG, as well as Anti-Barrier Snipers, and Bad Amplitude, where damaging a champion with an arc ability causes the champion to become jolted. Plus we're going to see Surge Detonators and Inferno Whip. Then finally, after 10 perk choices, we'll get access to Thunderous Retort, and Arc Supers do more damage when cast while in critical condition or while amplified. Then there's Hype Train Conductor, which adds 2 seconds to Amplified Timer, which can also stack. And Trace Evidence, where precision hits on arc debuffed targets will generate ionic traces. Plus we'll see Lightning Strikes twice and Sundering Glare. So that's the breakdown of some of those new mods, and when they'll be unlocking, and of course we're going to get access to a bunch of champion mods very early on. So hopefully it'll feel like there are a few more options there. And they finish by saying, as with Void and Solar, you'll make your own decisions on how to craft the perfect build. But we'll take an additional moment here to say that Hype Train, Bad Amplitude, and Lightning Strikes Twice have a lot of potential for those looking to make a spicy Guardian even spicier. And so that sounds pretty positive. Give us your thoughts about it down below. However, in terms of a calendar update going into Season 18, Bungie outline when we're going to see various different events. months. Initially, the raid launch is set for August 26th, and that's after the initial season launch, which will be on August 23rd. Then Iron Banner will arrive on September the 6th and November the 15th, and both weeks will feature the new Eruption mode. But Trials of Osiris will bring back the Lighthouse on September 13th, with Grandmaster Nightfalls returning on October 4th. Then last but not least, Festival of the Lost will make everything haunted on October 18th. And that's when we'll get the community voted armor as well. It's good to get a bit of a calendar update. Bungie also add here that Twitch drops are debuting for Destiny 2 for the first time. And as a thank you for stopping by to watch the showcase on Twitch, they say they'll be offering up a glorious Starbirth emblem as a reward. To be eligible, players will need to make sure their Twitch account is linked to the Destiny 2 account in Bungie.net, and then simply tune in to the official Bungie Twitch channel on August 23rd from 9 AM Pacific to 11:30 AM Pacific and watch at least 30 minutes of this showcase. So if you want extra information about that, it will be in the tab linked below. But otherwise, for the update 620 release schedule, that is the Season 18 update, at 9 AM PDT, maintenance is scheduled to begin, with the game being brought offline at 9:45 AM. And then at 10 AM, which is 1700 UTC, D2 will be brought back online, and update 620 will be playable on all platforms and regions. So we'll have to see how smooth of a launch it is for the new season. Finally, right here, let's speak a little bit about Arc 3.0. Of course, Bungie revealed some details about that yesterday. In case you saw that information early on, Cosmo has some updates, and he says they had to make a couple of minor tweaks to the article. Firstly, the blind effect audio is going to be a washed out, distorted effect, as we're avoiding having a ringing sound effect. And secondly, we want to clarify that Titan dodge requires you to be on the ground. So that new functionality will need players to be grounded. Worth bearing in mind in case you had checked that out yesterday. If you wanted to catch up though, Bungie start out by speaking about the buffs and debuffs that are key to Arc 3.0, and they say first up is the new buff, Amplified. And an Amplified Guardian is faster, both in terms of movement speed and in terms of their weapon handling. And they're more agile, able to perform long slides that can function as a devastating setup for some of the attacks that follow. Unlike other damage type buffs, players don't need to equip any specific aspects or fragments to become amplified. By default, all Arc classes become amplified after rapidly defeating targets with any Arc damage, and equipped aspects and fragments offer additional ways to become or benefit from being amplified. They also say that after sprinting for a few seconds, an Amplified Guardian will gain another boost in speed, gaining a sizable PvE damage resistance buff and enabling even longer slide ability. And they add that even if a player is no longer amplified, as long as they keep sprinting, the speed booster buff will stay active. In terms of debuffs though, we're going to get Blind as well as Jolt, and blinded opponents in PvE won't be able to see and will be disoriented and unable to fire their weapons. But in PvP, blinded opponents will have their screen whited out and their HUD removed for a short period of time, alongside a distorted, washed out audio effect. And jolted opponents who are damaged will periodically send slivers of chain lightning out to nearby enemies, damaging them in the process. They also point out that Ionic Traces, which were previously only available to Middle Tree Warlocks, are now available to all, and Traces are objects that when collected will add energy for all of your abilities. So they're going to be leaning into that mechanic as well. And they say for Hunters, the Arc Staff Super is returning, and with Arc Staff, Hunters will be able to block and deflect projectiles with the press of a button, as well as perform an armored dodge where upon dodging, the Hunter is more resistant to incoming damage. On top of this, they're introducing a brand new Arc themed super for Hunters, and this is called the Gathering Storm, and here the Hunter leaps into the air, hurling their staff into the ground like a spear, and upon impact, the staff emits a damaging burst that jolts nearby enemies, but soon after, a giant bolt of lightning strikes the staff and overcharges it, creating a large damage zone around it for several seconds. Additionally, while overcharged, the staff will send out arcs of lightning to damage any enemies that move near it. So that sounds pretty awesome. They go on to say that the Hunters will keep the Combination Blow ability, but kills with Combination Blow will refund dodge energy, increase melee damage, and restore a small amount of health, allowing skilled Hunters to chain their dodges and melee attacks into ballistic bursts. And then Disorienting Blow melee returns, blinding opponents with a devastating palm attack, while also now amplifying the Hunter along the way. And the three Arc aspects will include Flow State, where defeating a jolted opponent causes you to become amplified, and when amplified, amplified, the Hunter's Dodge will recharge faster and make you more resistant to damage. Then there's going to be Tempest Strike, which allows the Hunter to perform a sliding melee that launches an arc wave along the ground, dealing significant damage and jolting enemies. Then there's Lethal Current, and after dodging, the Hunter's melee lunge range is increased, and their next melee attack jolts the target and creates a damaging lightning aftershock. And when used with the Arc Staff Super, after dodging, the Hunter's next staff attack will hit twice, but in addition, hitting a jolted enemy with a melee attack will blind them. They also say that Arc 3.0 will be bringing back the blink movement mode for Hunters. There'll be a few minor changes to how it was previously, but it'll be really interesting to see how that plays in the game. Then we have Warlocks, and there'll be 2 supers available. Chaos Reach, where players will be able to shoot concentrated beams of arc energy out of their hand to decimate opponents, as well as Storm Trance, which they say is more akin to the image of Palpatine floating around the world. And this super combines the landfall behavior from previous bottom tier arc, as well as the ionic blink behavior from the top tree. And then Warlocks will have 2 melees available, both utilizing the power of lightning, and the Ball Lightning melee will send out a floating ball of arc energy that detonates, zapping enemies down from above, but Chain Lightning will send out arcs of lightning to strike and jolt the primary target, and chain damage to surrounding enemies in the process. And for Warlock aspects, it will include Arc Soul, where the Warlock casts a rift to create the Arc Soul that will assist the player in battle, and allies who pass through the rift will also earn the Arc Soul, with the rift charging faster when allies are near, and while amplified, any Arc Soul that you have or gain will be supercharged, increasing its rate of fire. Additionally, there'll be Lightning Surge, and the Warlock activates their melee while sliding to transform into a ball of lightning and teleport forward, calling down a field of lightning bolts at the next exit point that jolts targets. And finally, Electrostatic Mind will allow arc ability kills and kills on arc debuffed enemies to create ionic traces, and when you collect them, you will become amplified. So once again, Bungie are mixing and matching some of the previous abilities from different trees. But finally, we have Titans, where we're going to see Fist of Havoc and Thunder Crash as the supers, and they say the latter is practically unchanged, but Fist of Havoc now has an adjusted slam radius that's halfway between top and bottom path, and the ground slam will leave a damaging field in its wake, while slamming from the air will cause damaging AoE effects. And in the case of Thunder Crash, uncoupling a subclass abilities from the old subclass Diamond system will result in some substantial buffs depending on how players use it. But they say that one of the biggest changes for Arc Titans will be the new Thruster class ability, and by double tapping a button while on the ground, the Titan bursts into their throttle direction at speed, performing a quick first-person evade, comparable in distance to a Hunter's Dodge. And otherwise for melee attacks, Titans will retain the Seismic Strike shoulder charge, which blinds enemies, and performing a Seismic Strike while amplified will increase the radius of the blind, and blinding effects will last longer. Then Ballistic Slam also returns, where players can slam the ground after sprinting in the air, creating a damaging explosion upon impact. In addition to those, we're also going to see a new charged attack called Thunderclap, and here the Titan player holds the melee button and charges up arc energy that can be unleashed in either a quick powerful jab, or held and built up to be unleashed in a furious One Punch Man style blast. They say the charged state cannot be stored and the Titan must be on the ground to charge the punch, but the damage is significant, and a 90% charged Thunderclap will one-shot Guardians in PvP. However, that reward will be balanced by the time it takes to build up that charge level, and the fact that you must remain stationary to charge. And here we get the 3 aspects for Titans. So there is Touch of Thunder, which improves arc grenades in various ways. Flashbangs will fire an additional blind impulse on the first bounce. Pulse grenades will create ionic traces for the Titan when damaging enemies, and pulse grenade damage will increase over time as the grenade lingers after impact. Then there is Lightning, which grants an additional charge for Lightning Grenade and jolts targets on the initial blast, as well as Storm, which creates a roaming thundercloud that moves around and tracks enemies, and this will fire lightning bolts at the ground beneath it. That certainly sounds annoying, but fun if you're the Titan, I guess. And then for aspects, another will be Juggernaut, and while sprinting and with full class ability energy, the Titan gains a frontal shield that blocks incoming damage, and when amplified, the shield is stronger. But when the shield is depleted by taking damage, the player's class energy is depleted as well. And finally, there is Knockout, and melee kills will trigger health regeneration and make the Titan amplified, but critically wounding an enemy or breaking their shield will increase melee range and damage for a brief period. And the Titan's base melee will become arc empowered while Knockout is active. So again, some pretty interesting sounding stuff right there for Arc 3.0. Give us your thoughts. Finally though, they do reveal a few fragments, so we have Spark of Beacons, and when the player is amplified, Arc special weapon kills create a blinding explosion. There'll also be Spark of Resistance, and when surrounded by enemies, the player has increased damage resistance. Spark of Momentum, where sliding over ammo will reload your weapon and grant a small amount of melee energy, but sliding over heavy ammo increases the amount of energy granted. Then finally, Spark of Shock, and the player's arc grenades will jolt enemies. So there we go guys, that is the text breakdown for Arc 3.0. Once again, be sure to give us your thoughts below, but next Tuesday, when we get the reveal, as well as our hands on Season 18, of course, naturally we're going to experience Arc 3.0 in more depth. So definitely looking forward to that, and I'll keep you guys posted with that new content. However, for today, if you've enjoyed the video, a rating below really does help us out. Plus, be sure to get subscribed and I'll keep you posted with more Destiny content. But otherwise, thank you for tuning in, and I hope you guys have an awesome day.